My job is to manage the nutritional biochemistry lab, and we're a group of individuals that work together to better understand the nutritional requirements for extended duration spaceflight. So in short, our job is to figure out how the human body changes during spaceflight and how the body's need for nutrition changes. And ultimately, our job is to figure out how many calories people need a day, or how much protein, how much carbohydrate, how much vitamins, how many minerals, and then we hand that information over to the foods lab, and it's their job to come up with a food system that meets those nutritional requirements that they can make foods out of that the crews will eat and keep them healthy while they're on orbit. The nutritional biochemistry lab does two types of work. We do what we call operational work, which is also what you could call clinical work, and that is essentially like when the astronaut goes to the doctor for a nutrition checkup. And before and after the crews go on long-duration space station missions, we will collect blood and urine samples, and we'll check them to make sure that the crews are healthy before we send them up, and then we'll check them again when they get back to make sure that if there have been any changes over the course of the time they were up there, that we can help work with the physicians and work with the rehabilitation team to get crews back to full health as quickly as possible. Now, on the other side, we also do research, and we do two types of research. We do what we call ground-based research, where we'll do studies where we've put people to bed for up to 90 days at a time to use that as a way to simulate the effects of weightlessness on the body. We've done studies in Antarctica, which is an environment that's very similar to what we see in space flight. That is, it's very remote. The crews don't get any ultraviolet light exposure because for 6 months out of the year in Antarctica, the sun doesn't come up. And the crews in space station are also shielded from ultraviolet light. So what that provides us is a way to do studies in people on Earth that help us understand what's going on during space flight. And then we also are involved with spaceflight research. Right now, we're very fortunate to have 2 studies on board the International Space Station. We have one that's called the Nutrition Experiment, where we're collecting blood and urine samples during space flight to look at how the body changes while the crews are up there on 6-month missions. The other is an experiment that we call Pro-K, and the Pro is short for protein, and the K is the chemical abbreviation for potassium. And what we're doing there is we're altering the amount of protein in the diet and the amount of potassium in the diet to see if by doing that we can help protect and prevent some of the bone loss that we see in astronauts. To me, one of the great things about nutrition is it helps you to better understand the human body as a whole. And what's very exciting about the way we do work is that A, we're doing human studies, and B, we look at all the nutrients. So sometimes we're doing energy studies, sometimes we do calcium studies, sometimes we do bone studies, sometimes we do other types of research. Many people in the field of science work on one single enzyme or one specific vitamin and will spend their entire career working on vitamin E, for example. We get the opportunity, because of what we do, to work in a lot of different areas within the field. We usually also have the opportunity, because we don't have expertise, detailed expertise in every single one of those areas, that we get to work with people in the scientific community across the world that can help us focus in on specific projects. Well, growing up, I was always very interested in how the body worked, and at one point thought of going into medicine. And understanding how the body worked and understanding how diseases worked, I found just fascinating. And I learned when I was in college as an undergrad, I was a biology major, and I took a number of courses, and a few of them towards the end of my senior year were focused in on nutrition and disease. And what that was is to try to get a better understanding of how nutrition played a role in the development of disease and things like cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, metabolic diseases, you name it. And I fell in love with it. And then I decided after college to go to graduate school in nutrition and pursue my PhD in nutrition. Nutrition is sort of an interesting field because there's many areas within nutrition, but nutrition science, which is what I did, which is the area that I work in, required a fair amount of math and science to get through the education, and it requires a fair amount of math and science in what I do every single day. Everything from chemistry to biology to nutrition, a lot of different aspects to that. And now as a scientist, we work all the time. Most of what we do is work with data, work with numbers and statistics to try to, again, understand and explain how the body works. If you wanted to go into the field of nutrition, the best thing I can tell you is that, again, you need a strong interest in science and as broad a background as you can. From elementary to middle to high school, all those courses will help someday. Everything from reading, writing, math, science, you name it, all that helps provide the background that you'll need to do well in college. And same thing in college. There's a broad background of courses and a number of different topic areas that you're going to need to study and understand, and that will help to eventually lead you into the field. A typical day as a national nutritionist, I suppose the first thing I would tell you is that there's no typical day as a national nutritionist. We have many projects going on and a lot of things that we're working on. I'll try to give you an idea of some of the things I've done this week. This morning, for example, I met with one of the crew members who's going to fly to a space station mission in 2014. And this was his first evaluation prior to his flight. And I talked to him a little bit about what we know about nutrition and some of the important things that he'll need to keep in the back of his mind when he gets up there to fly. Things like make sure you eat enough, make sure you drink enough, different things to eat, like that we know that fish intake is good for your bones, so wherever you can to try to eat more fish, and those kinds of things. At a scientific meeting in San Diego, which is sort of like a grown-up science fair, where we presented several papers and posters on our related and recent research projects. We're always writing scientific papers, trying to get them published. We had one of those accepted for publication this week. We have another one that we're working on right now. And the scientific process from beginning to end, we're also working on proposals, trying to write proposals to convince people to let us do the kinds of research that we've done over recent years.